So I'm going to talk a little bit about Jordan Peterson here. I don't want to, this is not my main video. I am going to talk a bit more at length about him. There was this thing where he talks about yin and yang that I really felt was important to draw attention to. It's easy to kind of get lost, I think, in the many things that he talks about that he gets wrong. He talks about many things, many concepts, many mythologies and stuff, and I think, and I've watched a number of LeftTube videos about him, and I think it's been very hard for anyone to get a grip on what is fundamentally wrong about him, just because he just says so much stuff and he talks about so many things. And I think it's really, really hard I think it's very easy to get lost in trying to debunk all the many things that he says that are really, really wrong. And it kind of misses the main point. But I did really feel it was quite important to flag up the yin-yang thing that he talks about sometimes, because it is a specific martial arts thing. Well, I mean, obviously it applies to other things too. But, I feel like it applies to my martial arts practice quite a lot. It's not something I'm thinking about constantly, but it's there in my martial arts practice pretty much all the time. And it's a very fundamental thing, and quite a lot of martial artists seem to quite like him. I don't think he talks about yin and yang that much. I mean, to be honest, I haven't read all of this book. For me to really make the proper video, I am going to have to finish reading this book and watch loads more of these videos. But, it's only mentioned a couple of times so far that I've got flipped through it. I've only read 4 of his rules. But he does mention it, and he gets it really, really wrong. And now I don't think that... it probably sounds a bit funny to go explaining yin-yang to martial artists, but actually there's quite a body of martial artists that aren't really going to come across yin-yang that much, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example, and Krav Maga. And like Joe Rogan, he's well known in martial arts because, God, look at this, it's like 3 hours interview he does with Joe Rogan, and there's quite a few of them. So that's why he's kind of well known. But Joe Rogan as well, he's an MMA guy, he's not really going to know much about yin and yang. So, yeah. Now, just to give an example of, or a few examples of how much he talks about that he doesn't know. In this video he talks about the Nazis and the way that they treated the Jews. And one of the LeftTube videos I've watched is by a YouTuber called 3 Arrows. He's German, so he does know about the Nazis. And he did a video called Jordan Peterson Does Not Understand the Nazis. And Jordan Peterson claims that the way the Nazis treated the Jews was not rational. Can't remember the context. I think he likes to try and say that people do evil things but they're not being rational about it. Whereas 3 Arrows makes it very clear in his video, and I'm going to leave a link in the description because it's a very interesting video. I really recommend you watch it anyway, even if you're not interested in seeing Jordan Peterson being taken down. Just because it is really interesting anyway, and he makes it very clear that actually what the Nazis did was very rational, very organised, very logical, very well thought out, and there was a very, very definite purpose to it. I mean, there's this thing that he tells us in that video that the only nation that ate better than the Germans during World War II was in fact the Americans, people in the US, and a lot of that was off the back of the way that they used and abused the Jews. So that's kind of one thing that he gets wrong. And then there's another thing he gets wrong, like he talks about Medusa in this. Now, I happen to know a lot about Greek mythology, because I became really quite obsessed about it when I was about 8 years old. And so what he says about Medusa, that's wrong. I'm not going to go into it now. I don't want to get too sidetracked into debunking every bloody thing, because he should just be here forever. He really could. And he also, I would take issue with a number of things he says about the Bible. I actually have read the Bible. When I was a child, I used to hang around with a group of evangelist Christians, and they used to keep saying, read the Bible, read the Bible. And I took that kind of literally. In retrospect, I don't think they actually expected me to sit down and read the Bible, but I kind of did. I read all of the Old Testament except for the Psalms. I kind of got to the Psalms and thought, oh God, this is really tiring. I'm tired of this now. And then I got to the end of the Old Testament. I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to have a rest before I read the New Testament. And I never quite got around to reading the New Testament in that way. I mean, I have read all of the New Testament, I think, in some way or other since then. But anyway, so basically I have read quite a lot of the Bible, nearly all of it, and he gets things wrong about that too. and about Christianity and all sorts, really. He's just like, it would be very easy to get tied up in that, and I'm going to try and avoid it, but I really felt it was quite important to bring the attention of people who are in martial arts to the fact that he just does not understand yin yang. He does not even understand the symbol, the yin yang symbol. And this really should be a huge red flag. You really should understand that this is not a man that you should listen to. This is not a man you should give credibility. And it's very difficult for me that, I mean, he is basically reinforcing all the things that I complain about in martial arts, I would say. So this here is what he says in this video about yin and yang.
And then something happens to disrupt that stability. So that's like the white circle. That's the black circle in the white serpent in the yin-yang symbol. You know how the white one, that's order. The white one has a black dot in it, and that's because chaos can come pouring through into order at any moment. And you have a circuit that detects that, and that's the same circuit that detects snakes.
Okay, so there we have him saying yin is chaos, breaking through at any time, and he's also saying that the yin-yang symbol is a serpent. Okay, I'm just going to read you a bit from here. See if I can, I don't know if I'm getting this close enough. Might get behind here. So you can read there, I think. First, it is easy to assume that nature is something with a nature, something static, but it's not, at least not in any simple sense. It's static and dynamic at the same time. The environment, the nature that selects itself, transforms. The famous yin and yang symbols of the Taoists capture this beautifully. Being, for the Taoists, he goes on about being a lot, how we're all got to understand that we are being and how we are being or something. Reality itself is composed of two opposing principles, often translated as feminine and masculine, or even more narrowly as male and female, female and male. However, yin and yang are more accurately understood as chaos and order. The Taoist symbol is a circle enclosing twin serpents, head to tail. The black serpent, chaos, has a white dot in its head. The white serpent, order, has a black dot in its head. This is because chaos and order are interchangeable as well as eternally juxtaposed. There is nothing so certain it cannot vary, blah, blah, blah. There's another bit, he says here, it's just here. The serpent in Eden therefore means the same thing as a black dot in the inside of the Taoist yin-yang symbol of totality. That is the possibility of the unknown and revolutionary suddenly manifesting itself where everything appears calm. Okay, so, right, first thing to say about that, the yin-yang symbol is not a serpent. Okay, I did try looking this up. Basically, if you look up yin-yang, it's artwork. That's the only time when the yin-yang symbol is a serpent, is when it's artwork. That's it. It's not actually a serpent. I mean, I guess he's probably thinking that this bit I don't know, it's just like that bit could be a serpent, I guess, but these are not serpents. Yeah, the yin yang sign is a symbolic representation of two complementary and interlocking forces. It's not serpents. And he goes on about snakes a lot. It's a really strange thing. Also, yin and yang. Yin is not chaos. I don't think you would necessarily characterise them in that way. Okay, so you talk about yin and yang. Yin is kind of negative energy. It's dark, solid. It's kind of, it's drawing energy in. Sorry, now I can't see with them on. So it's kind of pulling energy in. It's stable. It's rain, water. It's metal. Whereas yang, it's kind of, it's air, gas. It's positive energy that kind of moves around. I mean, you would kind of really describe yin as potential energy, I guess, rather than negative, I think. And yang as kinetic, it kind of moves around quite a lot. And, you know, obviously when yin and yang are working together well, the energy moves around well, but it doesn't move too quickly. And it doesn't move too slowly, because, you know, if there's too much yin, things are going to move too slowly. If there's too much yang, it's going to move too quickly. And the thing is that if anything represents chaos, it's going to be yang. That's the thing, because that's the one that moves around. Whereas yin is kind of solid, and, you know, you've got the yin here. The yin is usually at the bottom, because it represents earth and solidness, whereas, you know, yang is usually at the top because it represents air. And it's a really strange thing. He kind of really goes on about how yin and feminine energy is chaos. He's really, I mean, oh God, he's just so obsessed with and chaos is going to break through into everything and ruin everything. And it's a really, yeah, it's kind of an annoying and bizarre thing that he does. It's the thing that he gets completely wrong about the yin yang sign. And it's a funny thing, because in a way, it's like in this video, there is a point where he talks about, I mean, he's quite obsessed with men and women, the way they relate to each other. Now, there's, like, I had some Tai Chi teacher say to me once that, you know, women are kind of solid and earthy, and they need, whereas men can be all up in the clouds, and they need women to anchor them to the earth, kind of thing. Now, I don't want to characterise relationships between men and women that way necessarily. I don't think it's as simple as that. But anyway, but the thing is that it, you know, this is something that Jordan Peterson gets completely wrong about the yin yang sign, and it's really funny actually, because, like, as I was going to say earlier, the way that he talks about men and women, it is like women are the solid ones and men are the chaotic ones, you know. And like this video I watched with him being interviewed by Russell Brand, where you know, they're sort of wondering why it is that he's so popular amongst young men. And it's a really funny thing, because in this video he says that he's, okay, right, women, right, he's kind of acknowledging it really. Women, he says, have a purpose, and that purpose is breeding and looking after the family, looking after their husbands, looking after the home. And we'll get into that later in the main video. But But men, in this video, he literally says men can screw around until they're 50 because, you know, they don't have the biological limitations that women have. So he's kind of saying there that women are the ones with order in their lives, whereas men are the ones who are chaotic and need guidance. His guidance, apparently. So there we go. Yeah, he sort of doesn't understand yin and yang, doesn't recognise the inherent contradictions in what he's saying about men and women being chaos. I mean, I'll take a minute here to acknowledge that there are probably a few men out there who are, and possibly some women too, who are saying that I'm chaos, I'm upsetting the proper order of things, and to them I say, well, tough, mate. Martial arts has been stuck in its ways for far too long. It's about time you stopped having it all your own way. Anyway, so yeah, I really just wanted to be very clear about this. You know, this man, he does not know what he's talking about, and it's, you know, and for martial artists, you really should understand that if he does not understand yin and yang properly, there's very little that he really understands. He really doesn't know what he's talking about. You should not be giving him much credibility for really knowing much about anything. You certainly shouldn't be thinking of him as a guide to your life if he does not understand yin and yang. Or, you know, motivational quotes and stuff like that. Just don't, okay? It's really annoying.